Powered by GoGoat Sports and in partnership with TSN, this is Season 3. It is episode 40 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Canadian Club Whiskey. Ray, I don't think that we were sure we were going to get to episode 40 of Season 3. You know, it's just, you're traveling so much, your schedule, my schedule, all of these things, but yet here we are, episode 40, Season 3, which technically is the last episode of Season 3 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. Now, we might do what we refer to on occasion as the emergency pod or a special pod with free agency on July 13th and whatnot. But beyond that, you're probably not going to find me or you with a search warrant after, say, July 1-3. Is that fair?
I have a flight at 7:50 on the 13th. And
PM?
PM. Well, yeah, because we got to be there till 5 to clean up free agency. And then zap, gone. See you in October. Or whenever we start again. It's time for vacation. I mean, I got to say, though, it is really cool to think this is the end of Season 3, because when we started, you never really know how things are going to go. We're really lucky that all of you people that have listened and signed up and followed us are interested, and we like doing it, and we love doing it. We love chatting hockey, and we're glad you guys like to listen, because if you don't listen, there's not Season 3. So I'm super pumped about that.
And I think we can break the news. Like, there will be a Season 4. There's no reason to think there wouldn't be a Season 4. We've got great sponsors to help us along. Canadian Club Whiskey, Boston Pizza, etc. So excited about Season 4. We'll
just not on July 14th.
No.
Season 4 starts in the next season.
Yeah,
right? Which is I'm just checking.
Yeah, debatably late September, early October, as we get ready for.
I'll be free because they're fixing the irrigation at our golf course. So by mid-September, they're shutting it down. So I'll be.
Oh boy,
I'll be free.
Yeah. Not to belabor any of this, because look, air travel is just a pain in the ass for everybody, and we're no different. I was somewhat amused and then angered by the email that we all got from Air Canada, right? Basically saying we're starting to cut routes because we can't handle the volume of people who are just trying to enjoy their life again. They're trying to get from point A to point B because they want to enjoy themselves, or they've got needs. They've got to go visit family. Haven't been able to do that for 3 years. I didn't travel nearly as much as you, but how was it? I mean, you know, to get from Tampa Bay to Colorado back and forth, you know, aside from the first 3 rounds, the Stanley Cup Final was not easy travel for you, was it?
No, it wasn't. And like you say, it's not us, it's everybody.
No.
And so there are many times you realize, like, I never even understood like how lucky we were, because you would book a flight. You'd never think, like, is the thing going to get canceled? I mean, unless there was weather. And so we would go there and you'd be at the airport, and until the nose of the plane was in the air, you're like, I hope we get up. Like, you know, like, I hope there's not a pilot shortage or a flight attendant shortage or a mechanic shortage. I ran into a pilot standing in line somewhere, and he said it's such a tiered problem, you can't just fix it. And he said, so there's a shortage of pilots. When the pandemic started, airlines offered a bunch of because they viewed this as a 3 to 5 year problem. They viewed a bunch of older pilots retirement. They all took them. Now they're like, we shouldn't have given them early retirement because we need them. Yeah. Except those guys that are retired are like, I'm not coming back now. You paid me out. I'm done.
Jeez.
So one flight got delayed. They had to bring in a mechanic from Sarasota into Tampa because they didn't have someone to fix the tire that something had gone sideways with. Well, there's not enough mechanics. And so we can say that, this is garbage, this is BS, but there's an actual reason why these planes can't get in the air with the regularity of before. So Air Canada's like, we don't have enough pilots. We don't have enough mechanics. We don't have enough flight attendants. And it goes down the line. And it's not Air Canada. It's everybody. No. I was on American. Cammie had to cancel a flight on American Airlines. So she got the automated response. We'll call you back in 5 to 8 hours. 5 to 8 hours.
That's handy.
So the phone rang at about 12:30 at night. And we're like, American Airlines. So, I mean, it's everything. Air travel is tough. And who I really feel bad for, Dregs, you mentioned it, is those people that are going to visit their families for the first time in a couple of years. And it's out of everybody's hands right now. And I'm telling you, you're at the airport and all you want is that nose of the plane to get in the air. And then you're like, at least I'm on to the next one, wherever that is. I would recommend, look, I travel a lot. Do not check a bag. I don't care how long you're going for. Wear the same shirt 4 times. Wash it. Wash it in the sink of your hotel. Whatever. You check bags.
Yeah,
they're not keeping up, and they can't.
No.
So that would be my.
But the problem with that is, and again, it's just cyclical here, right?
Yep.
Lots of people are doing that, but what you're noticing now is everybody brings in as big a carry-on as they possibly can, right? And they're trying to squeeze it above. And so there's not enough room for everyone to bring on a bag like that. So then you end up being delayed because they put them, then they check them underneath,
but here's
and then there's a battle.
If more people take a carry-on bag, that means there's less bags for the baggage handlers to deal with. And they can get to them a little. Like the other day, I picked up Riley yesterday at the airport. He came back from a soccer tournament in Dallas. And flight landed at 11:45. He got out of the airport at 1:15. I'm sitting in that commuter lot, the cell lot. And I'm like, where could he be? And he's like, we're still waiting for our bag. And so there's just not enough people to do it. So, man, I hope people have a good and safe and fun summer. But go to the airport, go early, and be patient because that's the only way you're going to get there.
Headlines presented by our friends at Boston Pizza. The Boston Pizza Patio is back with a delicious new summer menu, but only for a limited time. Man, we're going to love it. The new Mexican-inspired items like Fiesta salad, if you want to stay healthy, of course. You've got the loaded Tex-Mex fries, terrific.
You like
Visit
those,
your local
don't you?
BP today. I do.
You like the Tex-Mex,
I
right?
do.
Yeah.
But you know what? And it's the add-ons that I like too, right? Because you can have the Tex-Mex fries with a side of chicken, and now you've got a meal. You've got a lunch. I always like to add a little protein to it, right? So
yeah, you know what, Dregs?
It doesn't feel like you're cheating as much.
No, I go to BP, pizza. Pizza.
Is it the go? Do you have a go-to pie every time?
Always. Okay. Hawaiian pizza with red pepper.
Yeah, I'm not a pineapple guy. Sorry, man. I'm not. I go with the meteor.
Of course you do.
Yeah,
of course you
meat eater.
The Saskatchewan boy. Meat eater, please.
I do. Visit your local Boston Pizza today because Boston Pizza is the place where those in the know patio. I like it. All right, final thoughts, my friend, on, not for the podcast, but final thoughts on the Stanley Cup Final. Colorado wins a cup, and, man, to go back to that Daryl Sutter quote prior to the start of the playoffs, it's going to be a waste of 8 days.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't turn out to be that, clearly. Tampa Bay had lots of fight throughout the series, lots of push. But in Game 6, didn't it finally look like the Lightning were out of gas? Or was it the combination of Colorado going, holy crap, we better take care of business here. We better look after the game that we need to play in Game 6. We get to Game 7, and they've got life, and we're in trouble based on that level of experience.
Well, I got many thoughts, but one was, if it goes to Game 7, I do not want to be facing Andrei Vasilevsky. Just in case he throws up a 48 saver, which is possible every time he's in the net. Number two, the third period that Colorado played was about as perfect a third period as you could play. Tampa had one chance, one real chance, and it was Nikita Kucherov's one-timer, and Kuemper made a really good save on it. But that was it. Like, they just checked them into the ice. So I look at it this way, Dregs. There's 32 teams in that regular season we start with. And right away it's going to get wedged out and you're down to about 10 or 12. And then you get into the playoffs and really you're talking about 6. Right. So the pyramid's getting sharper and sharper. And then you get to the final, and there's two. And the team on the top, from the very beginning of September to now, was the best team. The best team won. The team that was built the best, executed the best, was fastest, deepest. The best team won. When I'm watching that, I'm just, first of all, through the whole series, I'm just amazed at two things: how fast Colorado goes and how gritty and gutty and full of spine Tampa was. Like they had, those guys were just limping around with nothing. And there they are blocking shots and diving in front of pucks, but also like they left everything on the table. And I'm telling you, they're going to be really proud, but in about 2 or 3 or 4 days, they're going to be completely empty.
Yeah.
Like the tank is empty. Those guys are going to sleep for a week. And so the best team won. They really did. They deserve to win. And there's a lot of sports writers. Well, there's a few sports writers in Denver that are going to have to take a big bite of a you-know-what sandwich, because they've done nothing but criticize Jared Bednar all year.
Yeah.
And guess what? Jared Bednar is a Stanley Cup champion. That guy has won in the East Coast or in the ECHL. He won in the American League. Now he's won in the NHL. What more do you want from him? He's coached that team in the way they needed to be coached. And whether it's McKinnon or Landeskog or Rantanen, oh yeah, Cale Makar. Watching him for 6 games from 3 feet away was just awesome. Oh my God, he's good.
Yeah.
He's so good.
So who does he remind you of, right? We heard Gretzky, Phil Esposito make the reference to Bobby Orr, and if they're willing to make that 100%, make that reference, and I'll believe it. If that's what they see, fine. What would be your reference point? Is it or for any of the younger audience, who would be closer? That would be as close.
I wish I had seen Bobby play as an adult to appreciate his brilliance a little bit more. There is nobody, and there has not been anybody like Makar. And the reason I look at, like, Bobby Orr, by all stories, was tough. Like, you could not run him out of a game. You're not running Cale Makar out of a game. And you're not catching him. And you can't skate like him. And you don't have the knowledge of the game. Like, he sees plays on the ice that you're like, he makes a pass through like this little seam in his own zone, and it's the right play to make if you're good enough to make it. Most of us would look at it and go, nope, not for me.
Yeah.
And he just zips a puck through there. He's 23. There's nobody I've seen that compares. No. Like, I played against Nick Lidstrom for years. Fabulous player. Not the same player. Like, not even close. Nick did everything.
Can we say he's the best? Can we say he's the best player in the game right now? We do that with McDavid. We do that with Austin Matthews when he's on this torrid scoring pace.
Well, I think McDavid and Makar, Dregs, are on a different level. I agree. They're on a different planet. Like, they were just what they can do at the speed they can do it. Like, they just take the game when the puck is near them and change it. The whole game changes. And they're the only two guys that I see that do that.
All right. Goaltending. We could probably spend an hour talking about this, and we won't. But let's start in Colorado with Darcy Kuemper. It looked like a big mismatch, going into the Stanley Cup Final, because you had Andrei Vasilevsky versus Darcy Kuemper. Kuemper had some injury issues that he had to contend with. Let in a couple of soft ones. I mean, okay, well, Tampa Bay's a pretty skilled team, and they're going to score goals. That's what happens. But would you be concerned less in trying to re-sign Darcy Kuemper now because he is a Stanley Cup champion, or would you be looking at a goalie market that is fairly soft, to be honest, and trying to find some form of an upgrade for next year?
Well, to me, I've come around to this thought. It's been mentioned to me a few times and by some general managers, and this is kind of Dregs where I've come to with it as I think about it. How many standalone, like true standalone number one guys are there in the NHL? Yeah. If you don't have one of those guys, just have somebody that can give you average NHL goaltending because you're going to overpay for an average guy. Like you can, like Darcy Kuemper, he's age 31. He had a good regular season, so-so playoffs. He was hurt a couple of times. If someone wants to pay him $7 million, you got to go find somebody else if you're Colorado. Because you don't have the cap space, number one. And number two, how much does that position, do you rely on that position? So I'm looking at, I got a list in front of me here. And so I think Hellebuck is one of those guys. I think Demko is one of those guys. You know what I think of Vasilevsky? I think he's the best. You get down to Igor Shesterkin, terrific goaltender. I think the guy in Long Island, Sorokin, terrific goaltender. But I'm not paying $6 and $7 million for Kuemper and Freddie Anderson and even John Gibson, who I think is very good. What about Jacob Markstrom? Like those guys are the next grouping. But there's no way Colorado's got the money to pay those guys, nor should they. No. They shouldn't. And so that's going to be a challenge for guys like Jack Campbell. Like, how much are you going to pay Jack Campbell? Jack Campbell's he's a better than average NHL goaltender in my mind for sure. But are you paying him $6 million? I'm not. I'm going to go find somebody else. How much better would Jack Campbell be if you could pay, I don't know, Jonathan Quick $5 million or $4.5 million, and Jack Campbell was going to make 6.5. Like, what's the difference? What's $2 million? And is the difference 0.01 or 0.02 save percentage? You got to balance the money with what you get in everything, but goalies are tricky. I'd spend the money on the skaters. I really would. And just try to get an average NHL goalie, which is a 9-10-ish save percentage, and go from there.
Yeah. Would you be inclined, if you're Colorado, again, now the defending Stanley Cup champions, to make that call to Marc-Andre Fleury? And so now you're making a comparison, right? You're going to continue to talk with the Kuemper camp about what his expectations and his wants are. He's going to say he wants to stay because he just won a Stanley Cup, right? He's feeling great about himself and about the Colorado Avalanche. But if it does come down to a money issue, are you okay with looking at Marc-Andre Fleury and saying, okay, we'll give you a 1 or a 2 year deal max at less money? Or does Marc-Andre Fleury and where his game is at right now worry you a little bit?
Well, it would worry me because I don't think in just making a direct comparison.
Yeah.
Kuemper's 6 years younger.
Yeah.
So I think that matters health-wise, although Fleury's never really had any, real health issues. That's number one. Number two would be, is he any better or just different?
Yeah.
Like Marc-Andre will give up a stinky goal on occasion, right? Darcy Kuemper does the same thing. I do think Kuemper is better than he played in the playoffs. I do not discount getting a stick in the eye and a concussion in 2 weeks apart as affecting his play.
Okay.
I was talking to Brian Boucher about it, and he said, do you know how hard it is to play when somebody's bearing down on you? You've just come back from a concussion, and you've got to hang in there. He goes, it's hard. And I'm like, geez, I never really thought of that.
Yeah.
And so I get a number. If I'm Joe Sakic, Joe just built a Stanley Cup championship team. I give the goaltending position a number. How much can I pay that position? And then I'm going to find a goalie to shoehorn in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because here's the thing. They're going to be good enough next year. Say you decide to a 1 or 2 year deal, because that's all I'm going with any goalie in Colorado's place. Say you go there 1 or 2 years and you get to the deadline and that guy stinks. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to make a deal now. And then I'm going to trade for Fleury, or I'm going to trade for a veteran that's on an expiring contract. Like that's how they have the luxury of doing that because their team's so damn good.
Well, and look, so many managers are in a similar boat here, right? Like, Billy Guerin wants to keep Marc-Andre Fleury. He likes that tandem of Talbot and Fleury, but there's a money attachment. You got to figure that out. Doug Armstrong, I'm sure he'd like to keep the tandem of Ville Husso and Jordan Bennington together.
You know who their goalie is next year? It's Jordan Bennington. They don't have a choice. Somebody's gonna pay Husso, and Doug Armstrong's gonna go, can't do that.
Can't do that.
So, and don't forget here, Bennington was the goaltender till he got hurt.
Yeah.
In the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's going to be tough.
We'll watch Edmonton closely too. Like Kenny's always got something going on. I know there's a conversation he's having with Mike Smith. Like, find out, how does Mike Smith feel at 41 years of age? You can LTIR Mike Smith. He's going to have something that is going to qualify him for long-term injury, which wipes out that year, right? So then what do you do?
Well, you've got Stuart Skinner at $750,000.
Yeah.
He's going to be one of their goalies. And I watched him last year in the American League, and my first thought was, this guy's too good for this league.
Yeah.
So he's ready to take that step.
Yeah.
And so then you've got to find.
You hope for Ville Husso? Do you look at Jack Campbell at 5 and change on a shorter term?
Again, you look at that position and say, what can we afford to pay that position? And then, however your goalie scouts, your pro scouts evaluate the goaltenders that are available, then you start making offers in that range.
Yeah. Oh, there's going to be lots going on, man, for the next couple of weeks. This we know. Why don't we kind of lump two topics into one? I was, quick thought on where the Kings are in acquiring Fiala from the Minnesota Wild. And, as we get closer to July 13th, free agency, and we're going to hear more in the hours ahead, the days ahead, of teams throwing out the opportunity for other clubs to acquire the rights to their unrestricted free agent players, right? We're going to hear a lot of that. So would you be interested, if you're in Calgary and you know that Johnny Gaudreau's going to open market, do you play that gamble game, or do you just say, look, we've made our best offer. It's obviously not good enough, so let's move his rights?
Well, if you know that you've made your best offer and you know he's going to turn it down, why wouldn't you trade him? Yeah. I mean, if you know those two things, why not get a draft pick back?
Yeah.
It's better than nothing, better than air. And if he's leaving anyway, you might as well get it. And if some team's willing to do that, so they get that exclusive window to bid with him before he gets to open market, if they're willing to do that, why not? I would. It's what a brutal decision to have to make. But really, when you get down to it, Dregs, it's kind of an easy decision, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I offer you a contract. You say, no, I can't take that money. I'm going to go to free agency. And I'm like, well, I don't have any more. So it's kind of an easy decision.
Feels like it. Even though you're talking about, if we're isolating Gaudreau, you are talking about a significant piece of the Calgary Flames.
Yes,
history,
of course. But if you can only go so far with it, because you need to sign other players too, then what are you going to do? You still have Matthew Tkachuk coming up.
Yeah.
Elias Lindholm is going to cost a lot of money when he comes up. All those things all matter. They've got that big whiteboard with all the, I don't think they use a board anymore. They probably use computers. But anyway, it's all sitting there, and they've got all that money all laid out in the future, what they can pay. And if the number doesn't work, the number doesn't work.
Yeah.
And so that would be one. Sorry, I forget. What was the first one? Do you remember even? The trade with Fiala.
Yeah, Fiala to LA. Yeah.
Yeah, LA stockpiled picks, and they got 8 million draft picks and young guys. The kid they traded, Faber, he's good.
He's a nice defenseman. Yeah.
I think he's going to be a second pair defenseman. He's physical. He can move the puck. He defends hard. I've seen him at the World Junior. And he stood out. Like, he wasn't just a good player. He stood out. So I also like Billy Guerin saying, I wasn't going to punch a bunch of buttons here. This is the best deal we were going to get. So we made the deal.
Yeah.
And for LA, for Rob Blake, they needed a score. They need some easy offense. I'm a little nervous at the term they paid him. Because
7 years. Yeah.
Because Fiala can be a tad streaky. Not a tad streaky. He can be really streaky. Take a look. if you take out that chunk of about 3 months this year, take a look at his numbers past that, and you're going to go, ooh, that gives me pause.
Yeah.
But I see why they made the deal, and good for LA. Kempe's kind of arrived on the scene. Byfield will be better. Kopitar's still going to play, and he's still going to be terrific. But time is going to get him in a little bit. You've got Danault. They've got a lot of nice pieces there. Don't forget they're going to get half of their defense back too. They played most of the year without almost their entire right side of their defense.
Man, there's a lot going on. I mean, even as we're recording episode 40 here, my phone is buzzing, and there's just
what do you got? What do you got?
I mean, nothing that we can report on just yet. But I mean, it's everything from
the
coaching
dig in, do the
speculation
Drager
in Winnipeg.
thing, dig in.
Well, I kind of hinted at it though. Like it'll come out.
I know you did.
I can't. If I mention what we're talking specifically about, then I'll out my source. But it is a story about the possibility of trading a player's rights because the team knows that they're not going to be able to sign this player.
I would assume, Dregs, and I mean, you talk to the managers all the time, but I would assume it's really deflating to a team that you've got a free agent coming up. You've developed and seen this player grow into a star. You've made your best offer. Your owner says that's it. Your cap says that's it. And you're like, we got to lose him. Like that must stink. It really does.
Yeah. And what you need is hardcore honesty from that player, right? Or the player agent who says, look, he's not going any lower and you've got to come up or he's going to the open market. Well, I can't come up. Okay. Well, then he's going to the open market. But unfortunately, it does happen that way, as you know, Ray, with some scenarios, but not all. And then that's where it really gets frustrating from a club perspective. Because
you're just chasing your tail, right?
You're wasting air. You've told them that that's as high as we can go. It's not a game of chicken anymore. That's it. So are you going to open market or aren't you? Anyway, it's an evolving story in so many different spots. I mean, we talk about Calgary, but we could talk about Forsberg in Nashville. You could talk about Malcolm Letang, all of those situations that are dangling out there. Before we wrap up headlines here in episode 40, I think we should talk about, the Rick Westhead reporting on the Hockey Canada. I don't know if we call it a scandal, but involving the alleged sexual allegations, right, of the 2018 members of the 2018 Team Canada World Junior Team, and how Hockey Canada recently handled that case. And they handled it, they managed it, obviously tried to do so in a very discreet, non-public way, which in today's world, society isn't acceptable anymore. It just isn't. And the backlash, somewhat predictable, I would think, right? You've got major sponsors now pulling back and saying, we're not on board with Hockey Canada anymore. And maybe it has some significant impact on the upcoming World Junior Championship in Edmonton in August. I don't know. But where do we sit with this? You've got a case where, you feel horribly for the victim here, who didn't necessarily want to participate in a police investigation or a full-on investigation because she wants to go on and live her life. She doesn't want her name out there publicly. The players involved, we don't know who they are. Their names haven't been made public. Does Hockey Canada even know who they are? So there are so many angles and twists and turns to this story. But I understand the reporting and I understand the reaction from the major sponsors because it does feel like there has to be more transparency in the process. So maybe you don't have to acknowledge the victim. You don't have to acknowledge, those who are allegedly involved, but you had to be more transparent in saying, we've launched an investigation into these allegations. Maybe that could have happened whenever they launched that investigation to make sure everybody was aware. Is that fair?
Yes. At the forefront of this is not the public. I'll say the public because that's everybody. Thirst to know who the 8 players were. That's not at the forefront. The forefront is the young woman and her decision and her choices of settlement. How could we possibly advise or have an opinion on that? That's
Right.
her. That's what her and her family have to decide. And if she wanted to make that public, she makes it public. If she wants to keep it private, she keeps it private. And that is her, that's the first step of this to me. The investigation to be done privately, I get why you would want that to happen, but it can't be. The sponsors to step away, this is where at the bottom line change happens. There has to be a transparent process to allegation. Yet it has to be done in a way that the people involved have the privacy afforded until people can gather facts. This is not just about Hockey Canada. This is about corporation. This is about the way things were dealt with in the past and the way they need to be dealt with now. And they're not the same thing. I mean, what a terrible story. I mean, like on not just about every level, on every level. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
It's you know what, Dregs? It's deflating to be involved with hockey when I see this. In 2018 or 2019, you know, to today. We're not talking 40 years ago when it still would have been disgusting, but like, what goes on, man?
Yeah.
Like,
And I guess what I'm challenged with too is, you know, because hockey reporters are reporting on it, it becomes a hockey culture issue.
right.
And I don't believe that. I mean, it happened in the world of hockey, and we can't detach from that. It's the very reason that Hockey Canada is being severely scrutinized. But it's more of a cultural issue, right? And it just feels like we should be so far beyond this, but yet we need these constant reminders that we're not. And more work needs to be done. So if you bring it back into the arena of hockey, then more work damn well better be done by
Right.
everyone, from the head of the National Hockey League to the head of Hockey Canada to everyone, minor hockey associations, how we teach these young people to interact and right from wrong. We shouldn't have to, but we're reminded constantly that we still have to.
Well, I think that's probably the best way to put that part of it is that even if you don't think that kids need this education, there's enough examples that clearly we all need this education. Dregs,
100%.
when all of this awakening happened a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I remember talking to Cammie and a couple of her friends. We were sitting around and they were talking about, you know, when you walk home at night and they're always shoulder checking, they're always changing sides of the street, a woman on the way home. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I had no idea. I never had a sister. I never, you know, I had my wife and I never even thought of it. And they're like, oh yeah, you have to be all the time. And I'm like, what the hell? Why would, like, I just had no concept, no idea. And it made me feel stupid and uninitiated into it. And so then I see this story and honestly, like, I'm like, who the hell has seen anything like this? Like, what are they doing? This poor woman, like, back to the start of it, this poor young woman, she just wants to get on with her life.
Yeah.
But whatever she decides is the right thing for her. Might not be for this person or that person, but it's a terrible story. And I think the sponsors here have a real, not have like the potential, but they're going to enact change by stepping away. They're going to force Hockey Canada, which by extension will get into other organizations. There will have to be a new way forward. And that is the only possible positive thing of this.
Our headlines presented weekly by our friends at Boston Pizza. Interviews on the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast are brought to you by our friends at Canadian Club Whiskey, who are asking, are you over beer? Try our refreshing CC Ginger Ale next time you're having a drink or watching the game. And Ray, you're back home in BC. The CC Ginger Ale mixed and ready in a can is fresh and ice cold.
Last night, Dregs. I cracked one open last night because I was too lazy to do anything else. And I'm like, I want a great little sipping drink. And it was there.
You. I'm going to my son's girlfriend's family's cottage. It's a mouthful.
Holy smokes. That was a little bit of a...
Yeah. Holly and I, in fact, for Canada Day. First time in a long time, right? We haven't been busy hockey related.
Hang on here, though. So your son's girlfriend's family's cottage.
Yeah.
This is a big step, Dregs.
It's a big step. It is. It's.
Are you grinding Mason on this a bit?
A little bit, because you know what? He's such an avid fisherman. I've already warned him. Like, he's going to disappear, right? He's going to jump on the canoe and he's going to go fishing for 6 hours. And these are great people, and we get along well. We're very friendly. All of that. It's going to be fine. But you're talking about 21-year-olds. So, we're not talking about, they're married and you're going to hang out with the in-laws type of thing. So it's a bit different. It's a bit different.
I bet he's a little nervous too.
Well, he might be, but I went and stocked up to make sure that everything was good to go for, you have to have the wine, you have to have, the appropriate refreshments. So I left the beer on the shelf and stocked up with a ton of the mixed and ready CC and gingers.
Nice.
So
good for you guys. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope it's fun.
Yeah. And I am going to raise a glass to the 44-year-old as well. Maybe not there. I might take it to the cabbage, but to you at some point. I'm not blowing smoke. I think we talked about this at the end of episode 39, but you marched through that Stanley Cup playoff series after series after series with a smile on your face, and just because you had your eyes on the prize, which wasn't the Stanley Cup, other than that symbolizing the end of the run, but knowing that your off season was coming. But as you acknowledged on social media, you're very appreciative of having the opportunity and the privilege to call a Stanley Cup championship final. And so to you, my friend.
Well, thank you. I got to tell you, Dregs, when they brought the cup out and they were getting all set up at the one end there, with the table and all that stuff, and the Avs are jumping all over each other. And I can't even tell you the last time this happened, but I felt like I was going to cry. I was like, it was so amazing to watch the joy, because there's a lot of guys there that had been at it a long time.
Oh,
Eric Johnson, Andrew Cogliano, who I've always had a soft spot for. I mean, broken finger, cracked finger player. On the other hand. He's got his gloves taped on his stick because he can't even move. And impossible not to be thrilled for that. I loved everything about it. It was so great to be able to have that opportunity. But I will tell you this, last night I went to bed at 9:00 and I woke up at 8 today.
Wow.
The last time I did that was in high school.
Like, yeah.
That's high school. Cammy and Ollie came in at some point. I don't know. Didn't hear any of that.
Check your pulse to make sure you were still with us, type of thing.
I think she just thought, he'll be fine. I
awesome.
slept. That's how tired I was. And so can you imagine how tired the guys are? Nobody was running into me for the last 2 months. Those guys must be gassed.
They are. Thank you, Canadian Club Whiskey.
Thank you.
Ray, we haven't had many gremlins in our system. We haven't. I mean, our recording has gone fairly flawlessly, I would say, here in season 3. So Chris Abbott from coolbet.co, who's a good friend of the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast, is in Newfoundland visiting his parents. He has to go back for his birthday. He's 40 as we record this here today. So we recorded the episode, or at least a chunk of it, his segment, and I guess the Wi-Fi in Newfoundland isn't great. So it didn't come through. So we're going to do the coolbet.co segment here in episode
Sure.
40.
And miss Chris on his birthday as well. So
Yeah.
happy birthday, Chris.
Happy birthday, Chris, who's coming out of sinus infection, which he picked up in Las Vegas, which is better than another round of COVID, which is what he actually thought he had. So here's to Chris Abbott getting healthier. But one of the fun things that we were talking about, and we were acknowledging the NHL draft coming up, and coolbet.co literally has odds on, okay, is Shane Wright going first overall? Is it Slafkovsky? Where's Logan Cooley going to fit? How many Canadians are going to be drafted? All of that good fun stuff. But we try and keep it light here on the podcast. And a big part of what we had talked about was the Nathan's hot dog eating contest, which grossed all three of us out. So it's probably better that nobody gets to take part in that.
That's awful. Just think, Joey Chestnut is like, he's won this thing like, I don't know how many times. You'd think he weighs about 600 pounds because the man eats 70 hot dogs to win. The over-under, I think Chris thought it was like 69 and a half or something. But just think of that. So they dip the bun in the water so it suctions to the hot dog and they just jam it in. God. No thanks.
I think I ate a hot dog as a little guy and I got sick. I literally heaved.
Okay.
Right? And so for years after that, the smell of a hot dog would make me gag, like literally make me gag. And I was in my 20s before I took another bite out of a hot dog. And now I like them. I'm good with it. But
I like a hot dog. I do love the hot dogs at the Forum in Montreal, the Bell Center now. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful hot dog. Yeah. I can eat hot dog, little mustard, little ketchup, some onions if they're around. Oh yeah. That's it.
Could you smash down 6, 4, maybe 10?
4. No, 4. 4 would be enough. I'd be like, what am I doing?
Anyway, that's the extent of our segment on coolbet.co.
There you go.
Check them out online. We're talking hot dog competitive eating championships here. But you can bet on the draft and, the number of Canadians, Americans, whatever country, pick it and log on to coolbet.co. Let's dive into Ask Ray and Dregs Anything, presented by Doer, the world's most comfortable pants and shorts. Remember, use code RND15, and you're going to save 15% off everything at doer.ca. All right, at Slurpees9, this is from Twitter, from Jess. Okay. Ray, what do you think a fair return on Blake Wheeler would look like via trade? Now, let me look at this. Blake Wheeler has 2 years left at 8.25 schmil in a cap hit. And Winnipeg has acknowledged they're willing to be creative, which tells you they're going to take a bad contracts back, or they're going to have to eat some of the money to make it work. So what are you looking for? Just anything to move out that deal and you're happy?
Well, I think
that sounds terrible, but
yeah, I would want, I would take an older player with 1 year left on the deal. And I would want Winnipeg to retain salary.
Yeah.
This would be a deal to move out the $8 million. You'd probably have to keep probably almost half of it back.
Mm-hmm.
But the 2 years part of it, that's the complication.
It is.
It's going to be a hard deal to move. It's not as much as Winnipeg would like.
A lot going on around the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, as we're recording, we don't officially know who the head coach is going to be, but that'll get sorted here in the days ahead. And, the Pierre-Luc Dubois scenarios we talked about in episode 39. I feel strongly that Winnipeg doesn't want to trade Pierre-Luc Dubois this year. They don't. But if the New York Rangers put Braden Schneider or Philip Hedl and maybe the 2023 first round pick on the table, I mean, if you're confident Dubois is leaving in a couple of years and walking straight into the Montreal Canadiens organization, then Holy smokes. Do you do it now
Well,
or do you
yes.
gamble
And
and do it next year?
the reason I do it now is this would be the height of the return you're going to get because that team would get 2 years for sure.
Right.
Whomever that team is, you would get 2 years. The longer you wait, the lower your return gets because you're going to have him for less and less and less time.
Hmm. One of the many stories that we're going to be chewing on for the next several days here unless Chevy comes out and says, stop it. We're not doing that. But the offers are flooding in. This I know. All right. From TJ Smith at TJ Smith 6. Ray, when you played, I think we've answered this before, but which goalie did you love shooting on the most? Or maybe it was one and the same, have the most success against?
Oh, Patrick Wall. I loved scoring on Patrick because he'd get so pissed off at any
Yeah.
goal that went in.
Yeah.
And I loved scoring on him.
Yeah.
I loved playing Montreal. I loved playing in the old Forum. And I want to say, because of the number of games we played, I want to say myself and Kevin Dineen are up near the top. Maybe Wendell Clark too, somebody like that, that scored like 16, 17 times on WA.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in that group. I loved it. Oh, I just he was so good, and I loved scoring on him.
Well, and you've illustrated it beautifully, just because of how fiercely competitive he was.
Oh, he hated the puck was his enemy.
Was there somebody that you just couldn't beat?
Oh, many.
No,
I think that's a long list. No. Honestly, the guy I had the two guys I had the most in my head would be Hasek, because you never knew what he was doing, and he was so good.
Yeah.
And Eddie Belfour, because most of the time you couldn't get to within 30 feet of him. And when you did, he was so big and he covered all the net.
Yeah.
And I had those two guys were tough ones.
All right. Instagram question from S. Davidson 34. Stephen, what are some of the worst injuries that you played through in your career? And I'm sure Stephen is referring to the laundry list of Tampa Bay Lightning injuries, but, knee? What was it? What was the worst?
Knee. I had a meniscus surgery and played within 2 weeks. And after games, I was getting it drained all the time. Like this fluid would build up and they'd stick a needle in there. It didn't hurt. After the game, they put a little freezing on it and they'd stick the needle in there and aspirate it. And I think like 25 millimeters of junk, synovial fluid was the name of it, would come out, and rested for a couple days and then play again. So that was by far the worst. It hurt, but we were in a playoff race and it seemed like a hell of an idea at the time.
Now, this could be Rob Gray or Raheem. I don't know, but they've added an asterisk to this question saying, might be funny if you both answer this question. Darren's broadcasting career, was it a cold, maybe a dentist appointment? Like, it's borderline rude.
What was it?
Well, I literally got my ass kicked in Brandon years ago. Literally went to a bar, got set up and got jumped, got thrown out the back door of a bar in Brandon. What the hell was it named? And there were 4 or 5 guys waiting out there. So I got absolutely pummeled and had to be on TV in Brandon in 3-4 days after. This was like a Friday night. And I had scars on my head from asphalt and, black eye. And I don't even remember what we said. It was like he was in a car accident or something absurd. So I had to play through that. More recently, that was one of the times I had my nose broken. Had my nose broken 5 times in my life. One with a baseball, and then most of the others just stupidity. No, you're right. It was off the bat and came back hard. And so I had to have my nose fixed here in Toronto.
But your guy did a better job than mine. Mine's been fixed, and this is what he came up with.
Yeah, but you also had the plate glass incident, which that made it worse than it normally.
For those that don't know, I walked into a plate glass window broadcasting, smashed my face, and opened up a zipper stitches cut that Dregs so nicely reenacted. It was really nice.
Awesome. Nice. So there you go. So, yours is more to the specifics of hockey, of course. Mine just shenanigans, right?
Shenanigans.
All right. I look forward to this question pretty much all season, right? This is where we wrap up the podcast because I think we're done. I think we've got through it all. Just got through Ask Ray and Dregs everything. Normally, week by week, I ask you, okay, what's your week look like? Right? Well, this is the week you get to say, oh, this is what my week looks like. And it's golf, it's kids, it's life.
Yep. So this is what I got going, Dregs. I got tea time at 5:30 with my 12-year-old.
Nice.
Go play nine holes. He hits it pretty good. It's fun to watch him play. Clubs falling out of his bag all over the place. I love it. It's so great. Landon and I are playing tomorrow. Matt is turning 34. So we have his birthday on Saturday. And Cammie leaves for the draft on Sunday, her first draft with the Vancouver Canucks. And she's nervous and excited. And then it's me and the boys and DoorDash next week. So it's a good week coming up.
Oh, I thought you'd be just eager to get to Montreal and spend another 4 or 5 days in a hotel.
If this draft was in my backyard, I would have a tough time focusing in on it, man. I am exhausted.
No.
Here's one thing that is going to happen, though. I will tell you this.
Okay.
July 14th.
Yeah.
I will give my phone to Cammie. She'll change my Twitter password, and I will be out until September.
Won't tell you what the password is so that you can't get on there even if you wanted to get on there.
That's the goal. Yep.
That is spectacular because you've talked about this in the past where Cammie, with her counseling, has encouraged you to spend less and less and less and less time on social, which you have done, by the way. You know, your engagements are normally positive, right?
Yeah, I'm way down, and I just can't be the way it used to be. But in July, it's time to. There's nothing of news that I'm going to need until I need it, and then I'll catch back up and enjoy the summer with the family.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing you on July 13th in studio, and I look forward to saying see you later, Ray, and then we'll check in again in like September, October. Yep.
Yeah. Have a good one, Dregs. Enjoy the weekend. Big weekend for you guys. And we'll see you July 13th for free agency. Everybody, thanks for listening. It's been a terrific year for us and in large part, actually in all the part, because you guys have listened and signed up and followed and all that stuff. So thanks very much. Everybody be well. Great.
Episode 40 of the Ray and Dregs podcast. Huge shout out to the partners who make it possible. Our title sponsor, and our good friends at Canadian Club Whiskey, thank you very much. Coolbet.co, the free-to-play sports and casino games website. Buy Boston Pizza, pick it up or get it delivered to your door. Let Boston Pizza do the cooking tonight. And by Doer, use code RND15 to save 15% off everything at doer.ca. If you can tune in, we will try our very best to provide an episode 41 looking back at free agency and the NHL Draft. If not, look forward to Season 4 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast.